Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Simply Done Concierge. Folks, we can all make a lot of money. We can make a lot of other things, but we cannot make more time. And folks at Simply Done Concierge can give you that time back, running errands, doing meal prep, doing all laundry, helping you unpack, pet sit, all kinds of things we can do to help you get through your day and be two places at one time. If you go to simplydoneconcierge.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Welcome to Triangle BNI. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. And if you're not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. There are 32 chapters, about 540 members meeting each week. And our goal is to help each other grow our businesses. And our local small business success story is Adrian Rodriguez with SnapPicFix. Adrian is a member of Triangle Business Builders. They meet Thursday mornings at 8:15 at the Triangle Shooting Academy in Briar Creek. So if you're in that area, want to meet some very good networking professionals, business owners, and sales professionals, please go by at 8:15. Good morning, Adrian. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me on the show this morning.
My pleasure. You look good in the outdoors. Where are you today?
I am at the Box Yard, which is a new kind of shipping container establishment that they put out in Research Triangle Park, just across the street from the co-working space at the Frontier that I usually hang out in. They got some nice barbecue. They've got some beer, some good food, some good coffee, a little bit for everyone.
How many days a week are you there?
At the Box Yard as my cafeteria pretty much, probably a couple days a week, and then at the co-working space, like, probably, like, 3 or 4 days out of the
I
5.
like the fact that you're sitting outside. You look very relaxed.
It is beautiful. That's one of the great things about North Carolina is the awesome weather. It's not too cold today, and so, yeah, I'm taking advantage of it.
But we'll get to the difference between this weather and South Florida weather as we get talking, because I think we got to know the difference on that. But Snap Pick Fix, you guys prioritize engage customers while saving time and money. Basically, you got software for service professionals that connect with their clients faster and better. We know we want to connect with them better, but what do you guys bring to the table? Because I think there's very few of you in BNI that do it this way.
Yeah, so we pride ourselves in ensuring that home service professionals, roofers, handyman, plumbers, electricians, whatever it may be, never miss a customer. So we integrate into wherever their customers are coming from, be it phone, be it Google, be it Angie's and Thumbtack and some of those paid lead services. Um, and if they can't get to that customer immediately, we will engage with that customer, ask them some questions, ask kind of those qualifying questions that the professional needs to qualify the job. And so, yeah, we make sure that they never miss a customer, and that allows them to never miss dinner with their family and never miss weekends and never miss watching the Super Bowl, which is kind of nice.
I know one of the things I've learned in BNI with tradespeople is obviously they're out in the field, HVAC, landscaper, roofer. They're in the field all day, can't really take phone calls. And it's kind of nice because I know they worry if you're on a roof or cutting grass that you're going to miss a phone call, maybe business. So I know it's probably a great relief for them to know that that call is going to be answered or that request online is going to be answered.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The kind of the peace of mind that they have, whether they're talking to a customer or sitting in a BNI meeting and they shouldn't be taking calls and talking to customers during those meetings. Yeah, they're happy to know that we are kind of watching their back and helping them out.
So how did this get started?
So it took a while, to become the product that it was, and we've pivoted a couple times, to become SnapPicFix, but I've been involved with real estate and kinda DIY projects and watching a lot of HGTV for a while, and my technical background, was in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and so kinda when you put those 2 things together, my passion for, DIY home services, real estate, and this technical knowledge that I have, like, you end up with SnapPicFix. It's kind of inevitable that I would have ended up working on something like SnapPicFix. and it was just a matter of time for things to line up.
Now, when you watch these DIY shows, are you very critical or do you ooh and awe at what they come up with?
It's a little of both. There used to be one called like Renovation Disaster or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't think it's still on, but that was pretty much my weekend was was all the disasters and everything going wrong. Things caving in, sheets of drywall falling on my head and cracking in half and all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah.
Did you ever envision trying to put your own pilot together for your own DIY show?
No, no. No, I'm not an on-camera person. No, no.
Are you good at fixing stuff around your house?
I think so. I My wife may disagree sometimes, but I think I'm pretty handy, um, doing little projects around the house and, doing a lot of painting and, yeah, ripping out carpet and things like that. We've done a few projects
Mm.
ourselves.
So I was going to say, of the projects you've done, how many are literally fixing things and how many of are, we've always been wanting to do this. Let's put this on the schedule.
Yeah, it's probably 50-50 of, something we'll see on TV and, say, "Hey, we've always wanted this," right? Like, "Hey, let's pull out this door and put a barn door," and things like that. And then there's yeah, just, "Hey, we got home and this thing is leaking or there's water over here where it shouldn't be," and one of those things. But yeah, having kids, gives us an opportunity to kinda build out the nursery and, redecorate the rooms and all that kinda stuff. So, yeah.
And those are fun. Yeah. Because there's all kinds of different ways you can go with those.
Mhm.
Snap Pick Fix. How did you come up with that? And it basically, yeah, how'd you guys come up with that? And why did that name fit?
Yeah, so Snap, I mean, speed is critical in the trades, right? When a customer reaches out, you have to be the first one to respond to them, or they're just going to go to the next person in Google and go to a competitor. So Snap was that sense of urgency, that sense of instant response, and that sense of like superhuman timing. Um, and then Pick really had to do with the fact that because we're engaging with them digitally through something like a text message or different messaging platforms, we could get pictures of it. So we all know a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so one thing is, hey, this is leaking or my water heater's broken. And another thing is a picture of the water heater actually leaking. Um, and so if a plumber sees a picture of a water heater, right, you can figure out, is this tankless? Is it a tanked unit? Is it up in an attic? Isn't it a crawl space? Is it in a closet? Or the pipes copper or PEX, right? So the picture was critical from the beginning and one of our differentiators. And then Fix is basically the reason they reached out was to get things fixed and to have it be fixed. And so that's where that came together. And then we just threw it all together and the domain was available. And so it was SnapPicFix.
As you have evolved with this business, how many pictures do you find that your clients need to make a decision on whether they have to go out there or not before they can quote that job?
Yeah, we don't really provide any guidance as to how many pictures they need. It's really up to the customer to see how many pictures they want to provide. And every job is different, right? Some some service professionals will have standard pricing for things. And so they really just need one picture and they know a storm door is a storm door. Others will want to see different angles. Others may follow up with additional questions. Once they see the first one, they'll say, "Hey, can you kind of look over there at the corner of the room?" Or "I can't really see what's behind that thing." Until they'll ask for follow-up pictures. So that's really up to the professional and up to their existing processes to figure out exactly how many pictures are needed, but we give them the opportunity to provide as many as they want.
So if I have a problem with a hot water heater and I call you guys and you need a picture or two, how do I get those to you?
Yeah, so it's digital engagement. So you'd get a text message. You'd be able to send it in the text message, upload it to a form. It basically gives you the option to click on the camera on your phone. And so if you have the picture already in your photo roll, you could just select it, or you could just walk up to the item and snap a picture of it right then and there. Um, a lot of times with property managers, they may get a picture from the tenant, things like that. And so you could just upload what that tenant provided or have the tenant submit the picture themselves.
And that type of technology has been a game changer, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone has a camera attached to their hand now, pretty much. So whereas before it was a lot of phone calls and describing what the situation looked like, and the homeowner trying to guess what was wrong with it. Now you could basically let the service pro see what you're
Mm.
seeing from wherever they are. So you could have a service pro in one part of town looking at the house, seeing, asking you questions about what you're seeing. Thanks to modern technology and so forth. It all changed with the iPhone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I was a little worried first time there were cameras on phones because I thought, like with any technology, in the wrong hands, that wouldn't do any good. But that shortens a lot of conversations when you see a picture or some video, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, on that point, I was working for IBM when kind of cell phone cameras came out, and I remember we had to sign a waiver that because of the fact that we had confidential information in the offices and things like that, every employee, if you had a camera on your phone, you had to like fill out this extra form. I think it took a couple months for them to realize that everyone was going to have a camera on their phone very soon, and that process that process was gone pretty fast. But I do remember having to fill out the form that was like, because there were rules that said you can't have a camera within this building, or you can't have a camera in this lab, and everyone just had a camera in their pocket, right? You weren't going to leave your cell phone
Yeah.
in the car because you were at work. So yeah, this was a while back.
And with the different stages of technology you've seen, we're going to get to this in a second. What was the first phone you saw a camera on?
Oh wow. So I mean, I was working with like the old Symbian phones and like the Palm Pilots and the Blackberries at IBM. It was called the Pervasive Computing Division. So we saw some like early development phones that had cameras before the iPhone. And then the iPhone was the one that kind of made it all popular. But we were working with smart devices when they were, yeah, the old like Palm Pilots. And those, I remember like Dell used to have a, a, an assistant, or can't remember the name for it, like a PDA, I think was
Mhm.
what they were calling them. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember those PDAs. PDAs, those came in handy. I do like those.
Mhm.
Um, Now, before we get to your history, now you're a master inventor. And so I don't think we've had many of those on there, if any. I want to get to a couple things, but I like
Check
the
it off.
beard. I like the beard game today.
Thank you, thank you.
How long have you had that, and how long do you and are you allowed to grow it?
How long am I allowed to grow it? So this, I mean, I've always had a beard, but this kind of, I upped my beard game during COVID, as many people did, and yeah, I've been trimming it back and then trying to keep it tamed. But yeah, we'll see, we'll see. I don't have a specific length or cutoff that I've been given, but I do remember one day I got home and I was going to, get it trimmed and shaved and things like that. And I was going to the barber shop, told my wife, hey, I'm going to the barber shop. I'll be back in a little bit. Came back. We were like 45 minutes later or something like that. And she was like, oh, was the barber shop closed? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? We trimmed it down. So, yeah.
I like that, and we'll get to the kids in a second, but I'm sure first time they got their hands on that thing, they grabbed it and tugged on it good, huh?
Yeah, and actually, with my son, like, at one point, folks were telling me, like, he may not recognize me if I actually, like, shaved everything off, 'cause for his entire life, he recognized me with a beard, and I had this big beard. So maybe that had something to do with it at some point.
All right, a couple before you got into SnapPicFix, I got you working at Toshiba, uh, for about 8 years and IBM for about 10 years,
Yeah.
and you've got I guess from day one, and we'll go back to your MIT master's degree as well, which by the way, very impressive. Kudos to that. Um, 80, you have more than 80 patents.
Yeah, so that's kinda where that master inventor title came from. Both organizations, IBM and Toshiba, have a very, robust patent system. And since we're working on the latest and greatest technology, we're encouraged to, write down our ideas and submit them and have them reviewed internally by the company. And the company decides, which ones they'll continue with a patent application on, and which ones they may just publish or make publicly available and kind of open them up to the world to use the idea or the technology at that point. And so throughout that process, I've had about 85 plus granted patents go all the way through the patent office. So that's from idea to review to working with an attorney to write down all the different claims that are going to be claimed in the patent, to have it approved by the patent office and then granted.
Now, how did those start? Are they some your ideas, some the company's ideas?
It's a mix of things that I'm working on, things that the company, technology areas and focus areas that the company has. So they will publish um, maybe like 10 focus areas for the year. Things like artificial intelligence or driverless cars or mobile technology, and then encourage employees to kind of think in that space. A lot of times you may be working with the Department of Transportation and you come up with this fantastic way to alleviate congestion on I-40 at 5 o'clock in the afternoon during rush hour. And then you can apply that exact same mechanism and that exact same process to systems networking and congestion on the internet, right? And so having the diversity in the organization to be able to bring someone that's working with, let's say, the Department of Transportation and focus on technology, you kind of get those ideas that you might not have had otherwise, right? The person strictly focused on technology may not think of that solution. And the person focused on traffic on 40 wouldn't think of that solution. But when you bring those two things together, it's a great platform for coming up with new ideas.
And when you get a patent, how does that benefit you as an individual, no matter what company you're working for?
Well, so you kind of get the kudos of saying you're an inventor on this patent. Each company will have kind of a monetary incentive at the time that it goes all the way through, but ultimately the idea belongs to the company and they own the rights to the idea and the royalties that'll come from it. They'll rank them in different, from like 1 to 3, and so you could have a high value patent, and so the kind of monetary incentives that go along with it change for that. But for the most part, you're an inventor. You get to say you're an inventor. You get to look yourself up in the patent office. But IBM and Toshiba own those ideas.
Now, can you get a patent? Does it have to be something brand new, or can it be a derivation of something that's mostly different, but still kind of the same off that idea?
Yeah. So I'm not a patent attorney. There's probably I mean, there are graduate degrees to go into those details. And the patent office will have their criteria for what is patentable. But essentially, it needs to be new, novel, and non-obvious. And that once it falls into that, right, you could have a patent on a chair and a patent on a rocking chair, right? Because the novel implementation is those rockers in the bottom of it. So you went from, hey, this is a nice chair to this is a rocking chair. And there's a lot of different ideas out there that kind of started with one idea and then you built on it, right? So you can make something easier, right? If it takes 5 steps to do something, you may be able to get a patent on doing it in 3 steps, or you may be able to do it differently in 10 steps, but it's a different method of doing it. So you may have Microsoft and Google doing the exact same thing 2 different ways. They may have patents on both of those processes for doing them, because they're just slightly different, even though the output may be very similar.
What was your first patent?
Oh, this was a good one. So it was a method of encrypting wireless electricity. So there was wireless electricity had been around for a while, like in academia, and there were processes for transmitting, uh, like turning on a light bulb across a room by just transmitting the electricity with the waves. And so my patent encrypted how that electricity was transmitted, very similar to how you used to encrypt like cordless phones back in the day. Um, so it would basically hop different frequencies, and it would make it so that if you went to a Starbucks, you could have 10 people all charging wirelessly, and they could each have their own um, encryption frequency and that kind of thing. So that was a really fun one.
And from start to finish, how long did that take?
Well, the entire patent process is about 3 to 5 years. It could take up to 10 plus years, and it could not even go all the way through. But there's about a year of preparing the idea, working with the attorneys to get everything filed, and then it goes sits in the U.S. Patent Office for a while. There's some back and forth between the attorneys and the patent office, and that could take a number of years, depending on the idea, depending on the claims, depending on how broad the claims are. It may take a few revisions before it actually gets filed.
And do you get a certificate at the end? Do you get a plaque? How do you get notified that it's approved?
Yeah, so it's public information. So, yeah, the company would give a certificate, a nice certificate signed by the CEO at the time. Um, but then you could get kind of aftermarket plaques as well with like kind of the first page of your patent. At IBM and Toshiba, they have a binder, so you would get a framed copy of the first page of your patent, and then a binder with all the first pages in there, kind of as a little keepsake.
Was there a great party in the Rodriguez family that day after the first patent?
Oh, absolutely, and every patent after that. Yeah, it was great. One of the awards that I received was a signed keyboard signed by Dr. Dave Bradley, he holds a patent or various patents, one of which is around the control delete, right? So hitting control delete on your computer. And one of the various awards that I received along the way was a signed keyboard from him. So yeah, that was a big day. It's out of my
No.
office on the wall. Yeah.
Now, by your 54th patent, did your family go, "Oh, nice, honey. Keep up the good work"?
There's still some really cool ones in there. There was one that was granted on my birthday, just coincidentally, because you have no idea when the patent office is going to approve it. But that one just so happened to be granted on my birthday. So that I think it's in my parents' house or something like that. But I gave that one to my mom. She got it up on a wall somewhere.
Now, when your kids are older and they get into conversations with their friends about what their dad does and how cool their dad is, what patent do you want them to put on the table and go, "Hey, have your dad top this one"?
You've got kids. They never talk about how cool their parents are. You know that. They're not going to be talking about patents. They're going to be in the metaverse. Who knows what they'll be doing? But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of them. I think that wireless electricity one's pretty cool. I've got some cool driverless car ones. There was an interesting one around like driving in the snow, and you could basically say, I want you to drive, like you could tell your future driverless car to drive like someone else in that patch of snow, right? So if the car has never gone through your house driveway and it's icy, my kids would be able to say, hey, drive through this patch of the driveway and drive to the house like my dad or my mom or this other person has driven to the house. Um,
Oh,
so that's kind of cool, right? Because every driverless car isn't going to know how to drive in every specific part. So that'd be cool to have my kids' driverless car drive as I drove, and maybe I'll teach the driverless car how to parallel park and all that other stuff too.
now as you go out and about on a regular day, be it work or a Saturday, just bumming around town or stuff like that, do things catch your eye and you start thinking, "I wonder if they did this, it would
Yeah,
improve the product or the service"?
yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of those things with kind of being a small business owner, being an inventor, like you're always looking for like, how did it get there? How could I change it? How could I do that better? How like like what could change in the future? Yeah, I've got notebooks and ideas on my cell phone. If I think of a patent or something like that, I would write it down, email it to myself, that kind of thing, and then bring it up. A lot of times with patents, it was in a brainstorming group, and so a bunch of people would just be like rapid firing ideas. So yeah,
And who
you're
would you
always
go
on. You
to?
can't shut it off. That little voice in the head doesn't shut off.
And when you have an idea that you're really seriously thinking about, who do you call? Who do you gather together to start brainstorming?
Well, within the companies, there were different patent groups that we would get together. So it depended on kind of the technology area and things like that. First person is probably my wife now. She hears every single one of these crazy ideas. And yeah, SnapPicFix being one of them. I had a bow tie company, started a bow tie company for a while. Um, so yeah, a lot of ideas in this head.
All right. Well, good. There's plenty of time. You're young, so there's plenty of time to get to all of them. One of the neat things on the show I like to do is when I have a guest on who is married, and your wife's name is Olga. I always have two questions. One is, how did you and Olga meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
Yeah, I think we'll tell it the same way. So we went to school together. We went to elementary school together. So she still has like the eighth grade T-shirt when we graduated elementary school. That's got like both of our names. We were in different classes, but both of our names are on that same T-shirt. So yeah, I think she'll still say that story. Obviously, haven't dated since elementary school and all that other stuff. Kind of went our separate ways, and then reconnected later in life. But yeah, that was the first time we ever met.
How did you guys reconnect?
At a friend's house, Christmas party.
The timing was better
Yeah,
then, right? Than in
yeah,
fifth grade.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. We had kind of gone our separate ways and knew each other were around and existed and that kind of thing. And then it just happened to work out. We were both single at the time, and it worked out.
Two kids, a daughter and a son. Which kid is more like mom and which is more like dad?
Well, yeah. I mean, Sarah is like mom and Christian's like dad. He's a year and a half. But he likes to get into things. Um, and yeah.
Has he purposely disassembled anything yet just to see what it looked like in 100 pieces?
Anything or everything. So we had to keep him away. Like since we have a 5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, we've got the Legos and things like that, and Sarah loves playing with Legos. So we do have to keep him away from like the tiny little pieces. But he loves taking things apart and looking at things and looking switches on and off and all the battery powered things, running them against the wall, flipping them upside down, all that kind of stuff.
Now, since you and Olga knew each other since fifth grade, it kind of ruins my next question
Uh-oh.
because when you meet a girl, when you meet a lady and you start talking and you're thinking like, all right, this might really impress her. Do you lead with the master inventor or do you lead with the MIT master's degree? But she knew all about that. So you couldn't really throw a trump card on her and go, you need to go out with me. I would be fun.
Yeah, yeah. She already knew everything. Facebook existed back then, right? So we were Facebook friends. So she knew what she was getting herself into.
Now, which of the patents does she brag the most about? Any? Or is she most impressed with?
So I don't think she brags about any of the patents. She she uses the keyboard every once in a while when she can't find the keyboard to her computer. She'll like look at my master inventor keyboard and type on it.
There you go. That'll work. Uh, how many? So you've got SnapPicFix. You said the bow tie company. As a small business owner, how many have you started? And how many more are coming? Do you think? I don't
Well,
sense you're the type to sit around with one thing only.
yeah. So right now it's SnapPicFix. That's kind of my my focus. The bow tie company before that, a mobile payments company. So I'm probably on my third now. A couple of other ideas along the way. Um, but yeah, who knows what's in the future? I'm 100% focused on growing SnapPicFix and helping as many home service professionals as I can. It's a huge market. There's so many um, service pros out there. Um, I'm just evangelizing the technology that we have and trying to get as many of them on the platform and help them as much as possible.
Technology, we hear, first of all, for those of us my age, we go back to the Jetsons cartoon, which they had Zoom before we had Zoom, and they had, all this stuff, and we're seeing driverless cars. What are some of the things that have come out lately that you are impressed with and are following, just as the master inventor you are and the brain you have?
Yeah, so and I think I'm happy that a lot of it is making it out, and things like ChatGPT, and Google's new model. Some people are really scared about it. Some people, you know, like it or are embracing it. Uh, Conversational AI, right? And you could say that SnapPicFix has some conversational AI built into it. I think it's going to change how we interact with companies. It- it's we're starting to see some of that. We're starting to see some of that, like in the search space, in advertising, and I think it's like the cell phone in a sense that it will be part of how we work. I don't think a lot of people will have to necessarily change their business. It'll just be an extra tool in the toolbox, for running a business, and it'll help you stay connected with customers. It'll help you engage with customers. It'll give you speed to connect with customers, right? So the fact that we have technology that can connect a lead into SnapPicFix. We can respond back in less than a second, right? And you can have a great office manager, that's refreshing as the emails come in, and jumping on the phone as soon as it comes in. But there's some things that technology is better at, and there's a lot of repetitive tasks that technology is really good at. And so I like to have the robots do the repetitive stuff so that the humans can do what they're best at and what they're good at and where they provide the most value.
With AI, which is artificial intelligence, we're going to get to the point where we call a 1-800 number one day and that won't be a person?
I mean, it exists, right? The first thing to come to mind is probably those very poor phone trees that we dealt with 10 years ago, where it was like, press one, press two, press zero, and you're like banging the phone against the table and pressing zero to try to talk to a human. Technology has evolved, very much since then. Um, and I like to focus, and SnapPicFix, we kind of made it a point to focus on the digital communication and things like text messaging. There's a lot that I'll say robots, artificial intelligence, um, can't do from, a social connection, perspective, just like voice intonations and kind of building rapport, like over voice. But you could do things over text message that the string is going to be exactly the same, right? Whether you send a text message or whether a robot sends a text message, you can have that kind of scripted conversation already built out. So I think we'll see more on the digital side first, and then eventually that'll creep into, the actual voice side. And there's a lot of big companies doing a lot of big things in that space. We've been dabbling with some artificial intelligence generated voices that in a lot of cases, you can't tell the difference between a person and a robot creating the voice. Um, but I think you'll see things more on the digital side with like text messaging and just messaging, before then. But I think it will be a matter of time before it happens.
And a lot of the things you are talking about, I I look at it through the generational prism. All right. So let's talk about your parents, which are probably about my age. And a lot of this is, yeah, not playing in that sandbox anymore. If everybody wants to, great. But here's my wheelhouse. I'm staying right here. And then there's your generation that is open to, wow, hey, that'd be cool. And then you look at your kids' generation and what in the world is that going to look like when they're 25?
Yeah, and I think it's funny because older generations will think that they don't embrace the technology, but my parents text more than I do. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Oh, I don't, they'll say I don't want to embrace this, or retirement communities, right? There's going to be, we see it in our data that you may think, oh, this demographic isn't going to use technology and isn't going to know how to send a picture. But no, they've been sending pictures to their grandkids for the last 10 years. And if the plumber says, hey, can you send me a picture? They're like, here's a picture. Here's a picture of this. Here's a picture of this. And they're texting and sending all that information too. So I would challenge some of that in saying that actually technology has been kind of dispersed pretty evenly across the various age groups. And then, yeah, to talk about what my kids' generation and what the future generation is going to look like, it's exciting. It's going to be different. We know it's going to be different. Who knows if it's going to be in the metaverse or what that's going to look like? But it's going to be exciting.
I will say that I may or may not have a family member around my age or older that still thinks of texting as, oh, I need to write a full length email. It's like, no, texting is yes, no, be there in 20 minutes, things like that. And so I chuckle with my generation on texting. It's like, and you don't have to sign your texts every time, which grandparents kind of want to do. I'm sure you laugh about that in your family as well.
Yeah. But they're also the first ones to like throw a thumbs up or put a little heart emoji when things like, yeah.
For businesses, let's talk about small business owners real quick. The home services people, if they're not a client of yours, just with the change in technology, you talked about repeatable tasks. What kind of things can they start to look at to think, you know what, I don't know a lot about it, don't have a lot of money, a lot of people right now, but what are kind of a couple of things they can start looking at that will make their business more efficient and, like you said, allow them to do the things they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, I think the main thing is responding to customers, right? A lot of times they're spending money marketing their company, right? They're running the Google ads, they may be paying for leads. And then a customer will come in and it'll sit there for 10, 20 minutes, hours sometimes, an entire weekend sometimes. So I think the first thing and the first place to build that repetition and that automation is connecting with customers. Like no one should ever have a one-star review from a customer that says they never called me back or they called me back 2 days later, right? Even when you enable Google Chat and you start a chat conversation with some companies, it'll say, typically responds in 1 day or typically responds in 6 hours. It's like there's no need to have to wait 6 hours. Like your customers aren't waiting 6 hours for you to get back to them, right? They may or may not need the problem solved right now, right? And there are some emergency situations where you need someone to come out immediately, but they want some level of engagement. They want to know that you're going to help them immediately. And if not, they're going to go to that next person in Google, right? They're saying handyman near me, plumber near me, roofer near me. And they're going down the list. So I think that's the place to start, right? And it's as soon as that customer engagement process begins, as soon as they like an analogy I like to use for SnapPicFix is that we're basically bringing that cup of water when you sit down at the restaurant. So your customers are walking into your restaurant, they're opening the door, they're walking in, they're asking for a table, they're saying, table for two, and just sit them at that table, give them a cup of water, and then they'll wait for you to bring the menus, and they'll wait for you to take their order, and they'll wait for the food to come out. Then they'll come back for dessert and all that, all the various courses. But when your customer comes into your kind of restaurant, um, engage with them immediately. So that I think that's the easiest place to start. And it's sad that in some businesses it gets overlooked. And a business owner thinks that the only way to provide that level of service is to always have their cell phone attached to them. Because you can engage with customers in a lot of different ways.
I think from a customer standpoint, we have been either trained, I don't know what the exact word is for it, but our expectations are, you're right, I'm not going to wait 6 hours anymore because I don't have to. I mean, it started, with my generation back when the microwave came out and then the remote came out. We're like, oh, hang on a sec, right? And by the way, I tell people of your generation, that people of my generation, we were the remote for our dads. Hey, get up and change the channel for me. I was one of the original remotes. Yeah. But we're used to that now. And 6 hours is almost a lifetime waiting for an answer back. Even if your house is not flooding, you truly don't need an answer until tomorrow. Man, you see that, we'll return your call at the end of the business day or within, yeah, that's frustrating, isn't it? And I'm sure you hear about that from your clients.
Yeah, yeah. And so our clients recognize that, and they can see in the data. In some cases, they have the data to show like, hey, these are all the missed calls we had. These are customers that we didn't get back to. And that's money that they spent, right? It must have, there was some level of effort to get that customer to call them, whether that was paid marketing or even organic word of mouth marketing. Like the customer found them, um, and for whatever reason they couldn't engage with them fast enough.
Yeah. And so then why go out and network and advertise if you're not going to return the call? Why
Yeah.
bother? Because you're right. You said it earlier that somebody else will return that call in a lot quicker time than 6 hours.
Yeah, yeah, especially if they're a SnapPicFix customer.
There you go. And I know you've seen this a lot with the small business owners. Sometimes you ask them, "Hey, how'd you get that client?" And they'll laugh and go, and I've heard this before. It's like, Mike, we called them back and they said we were the only one that called them back. And that's why we got the job.
Yeah, yeah, we hear that all the time, and there's plenty of studies. I mean, if you look at Harvard Business Review and things like that, that shows your chances of converting a job if you answer within a minute or within 5 minutes, is significantly higher. And as the time goes by, your chances of converting that job are significantly less. With some paid lead services where they're selling job information to multiple suppliers, like there's going to be four other people calling that customer back. If you're not the first one, you're wasting your money.
Yeah. And can we assume that we're being watched with technology, that everything we click on, every phone call we make, every channel we watch, that it's being recorded somewhere?
Yeah, I think in some cases you're trading off that convenience for that sense of being watched, right? Most phone calls now you'll hear that the call is being monitored for quality assurance, right? I think being watched isn't so scary as much as what they're doing with the data, and are they then selling your information to someone else, or if there's some malicious activity and maybe your information gets hacked and things like that, and privacy associated with securely storing customers' information and things like that. But but yeah, if you're being provided a service and you're trading off being watched and your information for that sense of convenience. A lot of people are opting into it,
Yeah.
and we're seeing
Yeah.
a lot more of that, right? With different laws lately, uh, you're seeing that people are opting in for that.
All right, before we go, one tip for small business owners who really haven't engaged technology yet. What's something for them to look at within their business this week to think, you know what, I may want to look into that a little bit more?
I would look at um, the Apple and Google and Microsoft have business profiles, and it's completely free, but it's basically your business card within their various ecosystems. So how your business shows up within Apple Maps, and how your business shows up within Google Maps, and how your business shows up within Bing. These are business profiles that are free to set up. You want to claim your business profile. You want your voice to be the one representing your business. So I would start there. Just look at those three. Those are the main three. Look, make sure if you've claimed it, make sure your phone number's right, make sure your address is right. And yeah, I would start there.
Very cool. Well, Adrian, this has been a lot of fun. I'd love to talk more about the patents. The AI stuff is a whole nother podcast.
Let's do it.
Where that's going to go, we'll do that again. But love this stuff because technology in its place is very important because you can't be everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
And again, the 6 hour thing is just I haven't heard that number in a conversation, but I know that exists. But man, you're losing a bunch of customers if you wait that long. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Mike.
Yep.
This is a lot of fun.
All right, so we've been putting Adrian's number on the screen. So if you have any questions about anything, please dial that number up. I know he'll be happy to help you. And as small business owners, we got to look into this. This is legit. It's real. It'll help your business grow. It's coming whether we want to or not, at whatever level we understand it. But it's part of your business plan, so you need to look into it. So, Adrian, we've enjoyed it very much. Enjoy the rest of the nice outdoor day. And we'll
Thank you.
see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.